We'd like to welcome Coach Pitino. He'll begin with an opening statement, then he'll take questions.
Well, we're very excited to be part of a Final Four for basketball players. It's the ultimate. It's the best thing to put on a uniform and play in this type of event. And the second best thing is to be able to help prepare the guys to play in this event. So we're really excited at Louisville. It's been an unbelievable week for both our women's team and our men's team, both reaching the Final Four. And very excited for them and very excited for ourselves.
If you have a question for Coach Pitino, please raise your hand. We have one right down here in the middle. And please remember to identify yourself by name and media outlet.
Rick Pitino, Wichita Eagle. Is it more exciting this week for your son to be named youngest coach in the Big Ten or for you to be in the Final Four?
They're both exciting. Yeah, they're both very exciting. I'm very proud and happy for Richard, the coach at Minnesota. So it's been a great week in our family.
Coach, can you tilt the mic down a little
Yes.
bit? Another question right up here on the aisle.
Fred Calgill with a CBS affiliate in Louisville. Just talk about practices and some of the adjustments maybe that you're making or trying to make with Kevin no longer being able to play.
Well, we don't have a backcourt substitute. You know, we had a great rotation. All three guards were playing well. And obviously when you press and run as much as we do, it becomes a great concern when you don't have a substitute. You know, we substitute every game and give those guys breaks. And now we can't change our style of play because we won't win or have a chance of winning. So now we have to play a walk-on, and he's got to do the best job he can do.
Next question's on the right. Adam.
Hey, Coach Adam Zagoria, SNY. Can you just talk about Kevin Ware's recruitment a little bit? Did you follow him when he was in New York or just once he got to Georgia? And what was his recruitment like? And, you know.
Well, I believe he moved to Georgia when he was 8 years old. So I definitely didn't follow him then. No, I don't believe so. I could be wrong, though. No, I got in on Kevin late in the recruiting process. Didn't really follow him that closely during that process.
Next question is on the left. John in the front.
John Rothstein, CBS Sports Network. Coach, you've always talked about how perspective has changed for you. And in 2006, you got more joy out of watching Billy Donovan win the national championship than maybe your own national championship 10 years prior. Now that you've been back to this point a couple of times, has the perspective changed in terms of winning another title because you're here for the second time in as many years?
You know, you always want to win a title. I think when you have children, and I do consider Billy like a son to me, you much rather see your children go through great things than anything else. And this is a great moment for us because we were there last year and we got a chance to come back. So we experienced last year. We had a lot of fun. And now the guys are really honed in on winning it. But it's going to take a great effort without Kevin to win this thing. We know that. I would have said we probably were offensively and defensively one of the better teams in the country. Now I think we've got some problems that we got to overcome in a game to win. And if we can do that, we can win. But we've got some problems.
We're going to stay on the left, right on the aisle. Caroline.
Hi, Coach. Dan Uthman with USA Today Sports. The Rutgers practice video, how do you think that will change the coaching profession going forward?
You know, I think, look, we feel bad in the coaching profession for Mike Rice, for the kids that had to go through that, for his family that's going to have to endure the embarrassment now. That being said, this is an isolated incident that doesn't happen in college basketball. Those things do not happen. I've been, as a pro coach, I would go to every city and go see a college practice. And, you know, I've seen some coaches that may use rough language, but that just doesn't go on. It's just an aberration that just doesn't go on in college basketball.
Next question toward the right on the aisle.
Tim Sullivan, Louisville Courier-Journal. Rick, you've talked at some point about being able to switch in the middle of a defensive or offensive possession, your defense, from zone to man-to-man. How can you do that seamlessly, and how long does it take the players to understand how it works?
It takes a few months. You get better at it and better at it and better as it goes along. And usually by the time February rolls around, they've been through enough scouting games, because it does change game to game, predicated on what the other team does.
Next question on the right, Reed.
Coach, Reed Forgrave, FoxSports.com. Jim Boeheim gave you your first job. I'm curious what you guys were doing back there in the 70s.
Well, he really didn't give me my first job. Hawaii was my first job. He gave me my, I don't think he actually probably did give me my first job, because I don't think he considered Hawaii a job. So I did go to Syracuse from Hawaii. That was a job. So your question was? Well, Jim hired me back then because I was working the five-star basketball camp and had a good connection with all the best high school basketball players from working that camp. And he also wanted to play more man-to-man defense. He was under Roy Danforth, who was strictly zone. And back then, we actually played a lot of man-to-man. And he wanted me to work with the man-to-man, and I was very fortunate. I got to learn the zone. And so we played probably about 60-40 back then.
We have a couple questions in the back. First on the right.
Rick, Bob Lutz, Wichita Eagle. You have a guard in Russ Smith who's obviously tremendous at getting to the basket and finishing. How do you compare Malcolm Armstead?
I think Malcolm Armstead's one of the best guards in the country. I think Russ Smith is one of the best guards in the country. I think Trey Burke, I think you've got Michael Carter-Williams. The reason we're all here is we have great guards. But he gets in the lane. He's very quick, got a great hesitation step. They've got a great backcourt, great front court, very deep.
Coach, we're staying in the back toward the center.
Coach Zaid Hakeem, Comcast Sports Southeast. You're here in Atlanta, SEC country. There's a perception down in this part of the country that basketball, SEC is struggling with basketball. I wonder if you could talk on that, whether that perception is real or not.
Well, they're struggling the last few years, but back when I was at Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia, LSU were all great. You know, I think my first LSU basketball game was against Shaquille O'Neal. So back then, SEC basketball was great. It's down and it's cyclical. You know, the new coaches take over. They've got to recruit and so on. But it is a little down the last few years, but it'll change. It's those things are cyclical.
Next question is right up here in the front.
Journal. Rick, you've often mentioned Nazir Muhammad as kind of a big project that, you know, to get him from point A to point B and develop. Where would you say that Russ and Gorgie kind of rank in terms of the way you had to develop them from when they first set foot on campus?
Well, Nazir was more, he had to lose, he was 24% body fat, and he had to lose like 80 to 100 pounds. So that was a major project. Russ and Gorgie didn't have those things that they had to overcome. Russ was a very 147 pounds when he first came in, and he really didn't understand the game very well, even though he played for an awesome high school coach. Russ was just, he was just happy. He just wanted to score 30-something points a game. That's all he cared about. They were a 500 team in high school, and he had to learn how to play the game the right way, offensively as well as defensively, and then he had to get stronger. Russ is one of the, I mentioned 147 pounds, he's one of the strongest people on our basketball team right now. You know, Peyton and Russ had a contest of doing pull-ups, and Peyton said, well, you got to wear a sand thing on your neck, sand weights, because I have you by 15 pounds. So he put it on, and Peyton did 38 slow pull-ups, and Russ did 39. Russ bench presses 185, 18 to 20 times. So he's very strong now. So he got physically stronger, he got mentally stronger. Gorgie didn't really understand the game of basketball too well because of the language and the terminology. And then physically, he came in at 190 pounds to this country, 187 pounds into this country. So he had to get stronger, and he had to learn the game. So they both were very similar cases, where Nazir was, you had to take off a person.
Next question toward the left.
Hey, Coach, Jen Bates with KWCH in Wichita. By no means does Coach Marshall consider his team a Cinderella whatsoever. What is it about his approach to the game and his players' approach to this game coming up that you've seen that makes them a dangerous team in this tournament?
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the thing about Cinderella.
Yeah, by no means does Marshall consider his team a Cinderella. So what is it about his approach, his players' approach, that makes them dangerous in the tournament this year?
I'll say this without any exaggeration. They're the best team we will have faced this year at the defensive end. They are Marquette on steroids in terms of the way they play defense. If you grab an offensive rebound, they slap it away. They don't let you go into the paint without 4 guys attacking you. They are the toughest team to score against. And listen to what they've done in this tournament and who they've beaten. But they haven't just beaten Pittsburgh like we did by 3 points. They beat Pittsburgh by 25 points. They're up 20 against Ohio State. They pound Gonzaga. They pound LaSalle. They're not just winning. They're pounding teams. And you can't do that unless you're a great basketball team. And they are. They were ranked in the top 15 for most of the year. But they are a team that can make a lot of threes, but I'm really impressed with what they do defensively.
Next question right up front, Coach.
Coach, Ala Abdelnaby, CBS Sports Network. Russ Smith, a guy who's second in the conference in scoring at about 17 points a game. Usually when you see scores, it's kind of at the expense of the team's success. What is it about the way you guys play that allows Russell to get his points and for you guys to get your wins as well?
I think we know what Russ is all about. And the one great thing, he gets to the foul line, shoots a high percentage. Russ, when he first came, annoyed a lot of people because of his bad shot selection. He doesn't do that anymore. Now he's a big-time winner, plays to win. The only problem is he needs a sub. He plays so hard. Peyton needs a sub. He plays so hard. So we got to use those TV timeouts and steal 30 seconds here and there because they're going to have to play a lot of minutes tomorrow.
Next question's toward the front on the right.
Jeff Schultz of the Atlanta Constitution. Rick, as you said, you worked with Boeheim early in your career and in his career. What is it about him that makes him unique that he has stayed in one place for so long, and does it surprise you?
Well, they all said I set him up with his wife, and that was the greatest accomplishment that I've ever done, if that is true. How that could happen, I don't know. But Jim is coaching a long time because he's extremely frugal. He's just a cheap guy that money means everything to him, and he's going to coach until he's 90 and hoard away every penny he's ever made.
The next question's just off the aisle on the right side, Coach.
Nancy Armour with the AP. Rick, it's been an emotional week for you guys. You know, the disappointment on Sunday, then seeing Kevin come back. How do you keep your guys kind of in check and get them refocused on knowing that you've got a big game still to play?
You know, I don't think I've ever been more proud of a basketball team. Obviously, I was frightened at the moment from what I saw. Then when I went to the hospital and got the great news that surgery went well and he came back and there was no infection, because that's what they're most concerned about for the first 48 hours. When that was all past, I don't think I've been ever more proud of a group of young men, the way they acted and cried their brains out for Kevin, and then the way Kevin got them together and the way he reacted. I don't think I could be any proud of young men. The outward emotion of love that they showed each other was, for me, just a great thing as a basketball coach to witness. And now we are refocused. Kevin's with us. We know we have to play a great team. We know we have to have a great night to win.
Next question's all the way in the back on the aisle.
Coach, Kent Taylor from Wave TV in Louisville. In that vein, with Kevin with you, first of all, how amazing is it that he was able to travel with you after what you witnessed on Sunday? And secondly, what is his role this week? How much of an inspiration can he be to your guys as you try to win 2 more?
I don't know. He's such a celebrity right now. He's doing David Letterman's top 10, so I don't know if he has time for us. Now, I think it's going to be a great motivator for us. I think Kevin will be. You know, we found out a lot about Kevin that we didn't know. We really did. You know, when he went up, I think he was almost thinking that he was going to fall off the stage or the thing, and he got up really high and was trying to back off a little bit. And when that happened with him, we all witnessed a different side of Kevin, something we haven't seen. And it's just incredible how adversity brings out the best in people, and it certainly brought out the best in Kevin as well as his teammates.
Next question toward the right in the back, Brendan.
Rick, Brendan Prunty from the Newark Star-Ledger, over here. I know you called what happened at Rutgers this week an aberration, but do you think in any way it may cause coaches to re-examine the concept of the practice tape, and, who has access to it, and maybe even if it's profanity?
I don't think coaches do that. I don't think there's a coach alive that does that, what you witnessed. I don't think there's, so I don't think you have to worry about that. I think that's I've never seen it in my life. As I said, for 8 years I went around and watched college practices. I've seen guys who are very tough on their players, but they don't physically throw balls at them. They don't physically do those things. I think that it's an isolated incident, and it was a very serious isolated incident.
Final question will be in the back left on the aisle.
Jim Litke with the Associated Press. Do you remember, by any chance, the Loyola-Cincinnati game that occurred exactly 50 years ago for the championship? And if so, what do you remember about watching it?
Was it on TV?
I think it was.
I didn't own a television set until I was like 12, so I don't know if that's true or not, but no, I did not. Back then, when I was a kid, we didn't watch really college basketball too much. The only good team back then was St. John's. We were all Knicks fans growing up. It was just professional basketball. We didn't care too much about college basketball. You can almost, Coach Wooden was going to win it. That was the only thing that we knew back then.
Actually, I think the year before UCLA got really, really good.
Yep.
Have you had a chance to read anything about it since? I mean, a lot of people think Loyola started 4 black ball players that year. Cincinnati had 3 and basically started a 4th for a lot of the season. And so a lot of people wonder if, in a sense, that wasn't the start of the change of course in college basketball, where coaches were not afraid to play as many black kids as they had.
Again, I'm old, but probably not old enough to remember that, and I don't. I followed basketball for a long time, but I don't remember those days being 10 years old.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Coach.
you.